actually, the hybrids legally have to either be imprinted, they can't be parent raised by their parents unless they're surgically sterilized, because some of them are still fertile and you don't want to, whatever they identify with at an early age, in the first 2 to 3 weeks of their development, is where they gravitate later when they become reproductively mature. They'll pair up with another falcon if they were raised by falcons, or they'll pair up with a human if they were raised by a human. That's me. I'm Mrs. Bird. So basically, with him, it sounds a little strange, but you know those rubber inserts that go over your, you know, like you wear the, you get them at Farm Supply and stuff. It goes over your shoes. You walk out, he's sitting on his perch, you go like this, and he jumps down and he puts a blob of semen right there on the shoe about 3 times a day, and so I can, if I need it, put it in one of my other birds, and that's how it's done. It's not as glamorous as what you just saw. You know, we're all, you know, someday they'll do a TV thing on it, and it'll be really for mature audiences or something, you know.
No flowers, dinner, nothing.
But anyways, I just called him to my fist. Normally he'd come to the lure and grab it, but I was on top of the hill, and he's just gonna. I've got this dog leash thing that kind of extends out to about 25 feet, but that's get about halfway down the hill, and then because he'll come in full speed and grab the lure and kind of keep flying with it. Let's not eat that whole thing. You got to do this again here soon. It's a little bit of that domestic quail. Yeah, I know. There's more later. Don't worry.
Where'd it go?
So, that little white bird I had, Bo, when he, you know, he touched the edge of that cloud before he turned, you know, and I know I'm describing that, but he comes in so fast. His space requirements are such that, you know, in the middle of a big field, maybe it'd be safe for him. Here I look at, when they come in really fast from a long distance, I look at certain things like, you know, certain elements that could be hazardous to him coming in real fast.
How fast will we go?
In a actual vertical dive, the fastest recorded speed so far is 242 miles an hour.
Wow.
And I know the guy that did that. It was a National Geographic special. And about 2 weeks ago, he did a presentation. He lives on San Juan Island. A guy named Ken Franklin, a falconer from a friend of mine. And he doesn't have a falcon anymore, so he's doing this presentation to an arrow. It's kind of a association in Anacortes over there on the coast, and on the Sound rather. And so we did this presentation. I brought one of my peregrines in, and I learned something I didn't know. And what it is what he did was he was trying to figure out, you know, terminal velocity is 100 and something.
132 or something.
132?
Yeah.
Well, it had to be faster than that, and so he had to find weighted lures like this lure here to fall fast enough for the falcon to come down. So he went to 17,000 feet. It's a really high dive, skydive, and jumped. You see him, he throws the bird out the door, and then he jumps out. It's an imprinted peregrine, just like this is a hybrid, but this is a pure peregrine. And the only way he couldn't get anything to fall faster than 190, and so he did the fall himself, to straight up and down, dive, tucked, before he pulled his chute. And he had a speedometer on the bird and on himself, and I guess that registered the speed, and 242 was the speed they got. So in other words, if he could go faster than that, the belief is the falcon could too. So if you look at a falcon and how they're built, and you look inside their nostril, you'll see a little tiny thing sticking out that's called an air. This one's just a piece of stuff there, but inside the nostril, and that is so it buffers the air at high speed, and so when they're going that fast, they don't implode. You know, just because they're full of air sacs and 2 lungs and a bunch of air sacs through their body, they just kind of blow up if they didn't have those at that speed. And so it's very impressive. And the predator-prey fear response is so significant between a falcon that birds really know can get them, and it can get them here as easily as it can get them on, you know, a mile away. You just see the range that they can cover in their flights. And it's something that doesn't wear off, where you know, I say that like man-made deterrents start out with a big bang and then just kind of lose their effectiveness over time. Birds get used to it, doesn't really do what it sounds like it's going to do. And the falconry actually has quite the opposite effect. It gets to the point where the falconer drives up with the falconer's vehicle, and the birds that might be trying to come in see that and go, they just turn. You know, you hardly have to sneak up on them to get a flight on them anymore. But we do some integrated programs, you know, where we'll like do somebody will have, what we've been experimenting with is like distress calls on a vineyard, and we'll have like we come and fly. If you have the distress call going all day, it would start to become just a noise, you know, they get used to it. So the distress call comes off, turns off, and then we fly. And then maybe the falconer's got 4 different fields they're covering, and so they'll, before they leave, the distress calls go back on, and then they go to the next field, and that way it sort of reinforces what just happened for an hour or 2 until they can get back to that field. And then it's an all-day thing, just going, you know, all day long, back and forth to different fields. The ideal program is a falconer in one field all day. You know, we do some of the larger acreages do that, and the smaller, a smaller acreage would have to combine with some neighbors, and then that's how they do it. So, any questions while we're